Okay, good day, students. We are now at the lecture on research management. After in Monday, if I'm not mistaken, we are already talking about how can we choose for research topic or for scientific communication topic. So what I'm going to give you today in this class is just some kind of a short lecture on research management, and then for the materials that you can get from today's lecture, you can found it in the EduNext page of our class, which includes PowerPoint presentations of today's and also video, okay, that is related to how we manage our research or our work, or in a smaller scope related to how can we manage our paper writing or presentation preparation. Okay, so after we have our topic in mind, and then we set up our plans and organize and selecting which type of project that you want to do in order to solve a certain problem. Now we need to know how can we manage our work itself. Okay, so the main suggestion made by the author that I put in this lecture is to set up priorities and then how to use our time effectively. Okay, for clarity, I ask everybody to also if you have chance to connect to a certain link or to a certain access, okay, if you have access to this book, it is very recommendable for you to read some of the passages or some of the chapters that is written here, because it is very beneficial for those who are on their senior year or in fourth year, where at that moment you basically start to working on your final project, okay, which need to have extensive time for research and also have, and then in the same time you also need to take the required class for your year. Okay, so most of the recipe for success for your fourth year, it is described in a concise way in this book, basically. Although it is true that this book was intended for graduate students, okay, for graduate students in master's and also in PhD degrees, but to some extent, it also applies for those who are already on their fourth year, because on the fourth year you will working on a research project that is related to your final project, obviously, and then you are going to interact with your mentor, with your, or in our term in ITB we call it as pembimbing, which is basically act as your advisor. And then probably you also need to interact also with people outside of the school, because you need to collect data, or you need to outside institution, etc. and so on. And so some of the passages here, some of the chapters here is relevant to the activities that you're going to do on your fourth year. But nevertheless, although some examples are related to the environment in graduate in the graduate study itself, for example, how you make proposal, how you make research grant, how you make how you make, how you look for, how you look for your research committee, your thesis committee, etc. and so on. But we can take some information and some experience that is written there, so that we can study and apply in our own activities. Okay. Okay. So if you have chance, please, if you have chance and access to this book, I highly recommend that you access this book. Nevertheless, in the bookstores or in the Google Books and those kind of websites, you could also find more references or more books that are also related to the introduction of how scientists or beginner scientists are working. So besides this book, okay, there are some related in order for you to grasp how can we manage our research, how to choose a good research topic, etc., and so on. So, for example, let me see. Let me look for okay, maybe this one. Okay. Let's see, scientific application. What's it science? Okay. And the other one is just the same. Okay, probably this one. Is this conducting research? Fifth page. This is also fifth page. Okay, this is fifth page. And this is also okay. Okay, let me share my screen now. Okay, so for those of you who can have an access to some books related to science communications, etc., and so on, or we can follow or we can read some relevant books, such as How to Succeed as a Scientist. Again, even though the passage here or the book here is intended for postdoc to professor, there are some chapters that is relatable to our own activities as a senior in your bachelor degree, and then Against Plagiarism is also a good book on how to avoid plagiarism. This will be, I think we're going to discuss about it in next week, so that our work, if we are going to intend, if we are intended to write a paper and then publish it into a certain publication, such as proceeding and journals, we must we must careful not to infringe any violation in scientific conduct. So which one of them is plagiarism. Okay, and then the craft of scientific presentation is how can we create presentations, and then who wants to be a scientist is possibly relatable to the previous book, The Art of Being a Scientist, which basically tells you about the or tells or to guide you about how to become a beginner scientist for those of you who wants to follow that path. And then it tells you about how we design and manage our research, even though it is more on the psychological background or social study background. But needless to say, there are things that we can take from this book so that it can benefit our own activities later on. And also conducting research literature review, how can we select topic, how to choose good topic for one class, or how can we select topic for research, etc. Examples that you can have or you can access in order to broaden your knowledge about the things that is related to research, publication, etc. and so on. So even though it is not related to physics directly, okay, it is not related to your research in a technical way, or in a technical term, but it's still related to your project, because as I mentioned probably in the beginning of our lecture in the first week, is that physics and communication is related in terms that our research needs to be broadcast. It needs to be informed to other people so that people will know that research on this type of thing that can solve certain problem is already done. And then people will know there is an improvement in terms of the science and technology of certain subject, so that innovation and also improvement in certain field can be achieved. And then from that publication, people will have interest to your research topic, and then will make a possibility for greater production, manufacturing, and etc. and so on. So it's basically a part where we can fit into our research and development, and also to make some innovation for better life, basically. Okay, so so those are the things, or those are some examples that you can have, that you can read in order to improve your communication skills. So with that, I'm going to go back to the lecture slide that talks about the research management. Okay, here, the first step of research management is to set your priorities. Okay, as we're going to follow this passage over here, I'm just going to read some selected phrases, some selected sentences that is coming out from the book, chapter 12. Okay, so given a finite amount of time available, so your research is basically on practically for a year. Okay, because if you're exceeding a year of your senior final project work, it means that you will consume more credits, and then you must pay the tuition more, etc. and so on. We have essentially two ways to reduce the feeling of having insufficient time, is by choosing our activities carefully and by working efficiently. Starting from the first one, in general, we have many activities from which to choose. During your student career, you have courses to take, qualifying and comprehensive exam to prepare. So basically, even though here in physics study program, we no longer have qualifying and comprehensive exam, but we still have exams for classes, okay, for classes. So, and then you need to work on thesis research to pursue literature searches to extend the breadth and depth of our scientific capabilities, and social and cultural life to pursue, and on and on and on. So many things that we need to do in this period of time at your fourth year of your senior bachelor's study. Okay, so the tugs in this many important directions do not lessen with time, nor does the number of direction decreases as you move through your career, whether to be in industry or in academia. In academic environment, one usually has one or more research project on which to work, paper to write, scientific literature to follow, classes to teach, students who need supervision, faculty meetings to attend, equipment and computers to purchase and maintain, and research proposals to write, not to mention numerous little chores that command attention. So you need to also remind that you have difficulties in your work, and also your advisor have difficulties in their work. So in order for you and your advisors to have a synergy, or you have a environment where it tends to work together, then you need to set up priorities, and the priorities needs to be the same with the priorities set by your advisor as well. In smaller case, okay, in smaller case for scientific communication class, it means that students who took this class need to know what are to have in order to pass for this class. Well, easily in my simple explanation communications class, you need to follow the assignment and compile them in the required time, and then you show progress and you show increasing progress from one assignment to assignment. I don't I don't want to say that I don't care, but I don't mind if you, okay, that's the correct word. I don't mind whether you have a low capabilities in speaking in English or communicating English, but what I want you to have is that your abilities become increasing and increasing or improve. Your final assignment in the 15 minutes presentation, you'll be able to deliver your topic in a systematical way and in efficient time and efficient description, so that people who listen to your talk and then people who read your final paper will understand the thing that you want to express, basically. Okay, so those are the objective, my personal objective for students to have after they graduating or after they pass this class. They have the ability to convey the message of their work in a small talk or in a short amount of in the short pages of scientific paper. So that's basically the objective. Okay, so Stephen Covey. Okay, so setting priorities here taken from ways that is described by Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. In general, activities can be either important or not. Okay, so this is basically a so that we can choose our activities in our 4th year, whether it's important, whether it's urgent. Okay, so is our thesis or our final project research is important? Yes, it's important, but is it urgent? Well, it depends. If you are in the 7th semester, while you are in the early stage of your final project, that it means that it is important, but not that urgent. Is your lunch is important? Yes, it's important. Is it urgent? Yes, it's urgent if we have if we have eat lunch in a correct period or in a correct time. It's urgent for us to basically to avoid illness, for example. And many other examples that you can find in Stephen Covey's book or even in your daily activities, whether, for example, reading novels or watching videos in YouTube that is not related to classes, or playing games. Playing games is also important is also important in order for us to relieve from stress. But if we don't have too many stress, it means that and then there are works and there are assignments that needs to be followed up in a certain period of time. It means that playing games becomes not important at that moment, right? So those are some examples that I can think of at this time, at this minute. So here, if I can continue, activities can also be divided roughly into these that are urgent and those are not. Urgency, also simplified from its true sliding scale, is depicted along the vertical axis. And according to this figure, our activities fall into one of 4 categories. Those are important, not urgent. Those are both important and urgent. Those that are urgent and not important, and those are neither urgent nor important. So Stephen Covey basically divides 4 divisions of any activities that we have in a certain period. So it can be enlightened to look at way you actually do spend your time and who decide which activities you engage in. Do you set up your priorities, or do others make decision about how you spend your time? Who is the driver's seat of putting together your agenda? So who are the controller of your daily activity, basically? So prioritize whether your thing is the thing that's urgent. Okay, all this talk of making decisions and setting priorities can seem limited value in a hierarchical situation where we are simply told to do something. Such a situation is more likely to arise in a business environment than in research, but definitely this happens and that researchers are simply told to carry out certain tasks, perhaps more commonly so in industrial research group than in academia. Scheduling one time is important aspect of time management. So if you have schedule, lecture time, especially a part of your important schedule of your day, and then if you already involved in research review or reading some important paper that is related to your final project, becomes the second prioritized your daily activities, such as having lunch, pray, sleep, etc., and so on, and followed by activities to distress yourself by whatever activities that you have. For example, like watching movies, playing games, etc., and so on. And later activities. It is the rare individual who can do effective research in half-hour segment. So effective activities, just a short time period, is usually impossible. Okay, usually impossible. So because there are not so many people who can able to do that, because people tend to focus on the things that they like 4 hours, but they tend to leave the thing that they don't like in just a second. Okay, so therefore it is essential to plan the work week in such a way that it contains a block of time that can be fully devoted to research. Time management thus involves choosing not only which activities we want to work on, but also when we want to work on them. Okay, so the pinpoint suggestion, okay, made by the author. First is to make lists of things to do. Okay, stress that we are experiencing more the feeling of having too much to do, in part by an apprehension over forgetting some tasks of importance. Make to-do list. Okay, make a to-do list. Take away this concern and can also help in setting priorities. The to-do list can simply be written on a piece of paper, or you can make it on your calendar. Alternatively, index card and electronic task planner offer tools to ease in shuffling activities according to their priority. And a to-do list also provides the opportunity for the feeling of accomplishment that comes when crossing or completed activity of the list. I guess for gamers who love to see on what stage they are currently at, the feeling of accomplishment. If we make a to-do list for research or for your own work self, probably it will give the same kind of experience when we are finishing a certain game, when we finish a certain stage on that game. So, okay, so it's basically how to make our activities in research becomes more fun. Okay, becomes more fun, just like when we are playing a certain games or playing a certain activities that involve that stage accomplishment. Okay. Okay, scheduling one time is an important aspect of time management. This is especially so for researchers because original and creative research is possible only when one is fully involved in research. Okay, it is the rare individual who can do effective. Okay, so this is the. Okay, in such one can do a routine task such as impossible to be truly creative unless one is completely absorbed in research. Time management thus involve choosing not only. Oh, okay. So I think I made a mistake. So I'm sorry. So after we make a to-do list, the second one is to aim to arrange your schedule in such a way that you do activities at time of the day for which you are at your best for working on them. So after you make a to-do list, you need to make sure that one aspect of your to-do list that is prioritized as being important and urgent needs to be selected in a time. Okay, needs to be put in a time where we are working at our best. Okay, so if we are if our productive time is from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., so it means that we need to prioritize those things into that time schedule on or into that time 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. that needs to be done on that time period. So after we make schedule it, we need to know what are our productive times, so that for those activities who have that priority, important and urgent, need to be done on that selected time frame, which we are doing our best in that period. So for them, it is a good idea to do research in the morning if we are more productive in the morning, and to carry out activities later in the day. If our productive time is indeed in midnight, it is still okay to move everything, but there are consequences which we need to also realize that in midnight, even though it is our productive time, maybe if we have work that needs to be okay, let me continue. Okay, so for example, if we are if we are in a situation that needs to work so if we are working on a project or done individually, then working on midnight time is okay. But if we need to, or a group of people needs to be involved in working on that project or in that activities, it means that working on midnight is obviously is not going to work, because usually people use midnight as time for the to-do list, and the time of our most productive hour needs to be also modified from time to time, because it depending on the type of the work itself. Okay, we need to also adapt to the work that we are going to do. Because if we are, for example, if we are working on a active working in late hours or even midnight is not going to be possible. Okay. Okay, 3, after we make a to-do list and then we arrange our schedule to our most productive hour. And then the third one is to analyze how we spend our time. Okay, despite all effort at careful time planning, we often spend our time differently from ways that we have planned. For example, we are planning to working on literature research from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. But what happened that after just half an hour, we are getting bored. The most productive time of our daily activities, but nevertheless we're getting bored, and then we spend the 2 hours just watching YouTube, for example, or vice versa. It becomes exciting, and then you use more time to do it, okay, instead of just 2 hours, it becomes 3 hours or 4 hours to do research, because you are because you are on the zone, okay, because you are so concentrating on the thing that you work, so that other activities that should be done after 3 p.m. you forgot about it, okay, you forgot about it, and so analyzing the time you spend for a certain activity need to be due at this moment, okay. A simple way of monitoring this is to occasionally write down all activities carried out in a day and compare this within intended schedule. So you can compare it with the planned schedule that you set in the beginning. Being aware of them makes it possible to plan time more realistically, and it can also be illuminating to use the previous diagram and place all activities that you carry out during a day or week in the quadrant where they are fit best. This gives clarity on whether you have the urgent ones. Also, attention to activities that you did not care but that do deserve attention. You could add them to the diagram in giving attention to those important activities. Okay, the fourth stage is when you are in the position to do so. More likely later on in your career than while in your student, ask a secretary to handle your agenda. So if you have a partner or you have friends that help you, okay. So for example, if you have something, if you are involving in a research project that done in a group, okay, you can make some kind of a schedule for each person to do certain work, so that you don't need to do everything on your research, okay. So you can delegate something, you can delegate some works to your colleague on your group, and then vice versa. You can also later on do the things that is in favor for the person that you asked in the beginning, so that both will have beneficial and mutual activities that can benefit both, basically. Okay, delegating the time schedule can be a huge time saver, especially when an electronic calendar system is shared in common for establishing and communicating the schedule. Note that this delegating does not necessarily imply a loss in control of your schedule. For example, by blocking out certain parts of the week for research, writing, or other activities that require much concentration, one ensures that those parts of the week will not be invaded by other plans. Okay, next is delegate tasks wherever possible. If delegating or asking your colleague to do your work and for later on you can return the favor. Delegating work relieves the workload and makes it easier to focus on more important tasks. Delegating work expresses confidence in person asked to carry out the task. This expression of confidence is often appreciated despite the work that comes with it. More researchers in academia find it difficult to delegate because perhaps because delegation involves a certain loss of control. When others are giving work that you could have done yourself, it is unavoidable that sometimes mistakes are made by those others. So please remind whenever you delegate some part of your work into someone else's, perhaps the quality is not as good when you are dealing with yourself. So please remind that if you are planning to delegate some things, you need to make sure that the quality and also the the quality and also the expected you need that person need to have is already achieved. So we need to be careful to choose people who we want to delegate our work. Okay. So, in other confidence to ask help from other people, don't do that. Okay, don't do that. But if you convince that other people have the same ability or have the required ability to do the task, then you could pair time to working on our things more. Okay, okay, avoid unnecessary distraction. Electronic mean communication such as email, cell phone, and to a lesser extent normal telephone offer a rapid and often highly convenient means of communications. The downside of those tools is that they can be a source of continuous stream of distractions, such as our laptops, such as our smartphones, even though it's basically helping us in our work, but it can also be a source of our distraction. So it is unfortunately too common nowadays that participants in meetings are checking cell phones or palm-top computer for messages. Not used with care, email and such other means of communication can divert attention to the extent that moments of concentration disappear from normal workday. So basically when we are dealing with things in the computer, if it deals with analysis and calculating something, unless we are not we can turn off the internet just for a while so that we can concentrate to the article that we're going to write. We can concentrate to the PPT that we're working on for a talk, or we can concentrate to a spreadsheet or a MATLAB command window or a Python command window so that we can focus more on the programming itself or in the calculation itself. So that the interaction of ourselves in the working time with internet can be limited to just to ask information, not to seeing videos, playing games, etc., and so on. And then the fifth one is one of the important, but not the last and not least, is the take good care of yourself. Please make if you're working in a bad shape, your health deteriorating, etc., and so on, you will not make any progress at all. So make sure that your body is healthy, your mind is also clear of scary thought, devoid of nervousness and panic attack, so that when you are focused on your work, you're not thinking about anything else. Okay, you're not thinking about your illness, you're not thinking about your anxiety, you're not thinking about the thing that so you need to be on a good shape mentally, to succeed in yourself, not only and take care of your well-being, give your mind healthy in which to operate. And then how as it may to give shape to those needs, the wellness of our physical condition, of our well-being as well. Okay. So So I think those are the steps that we can do, okay, in order to manage our research properly. I believe that in some books or in other books that also talks about it, probably the recipe for that is kind of different from the one that I cite for this lecture. So so I'm asking for you on the remaining period of time is that please start working, or please start searching for the relevant topic that you think it is suitable for scientific communication class. The topic that we're going to do, the topic that you're going to choose is basically the thing that you need to develop as a presentation and also as a small scientific paper. Okay, so please think about it and then search for the relevant sources that probably you can access easily from your house, or if you need a channel to the ITB VPN, please go to the STI website on how to connect to ITB VPN so that you can have access to the ITB library, which offers you a lot of sources of scientific journals. Okay, so so I guess we already have an hour of lecture, which is basically enough because scientific communication class is a 3-credit class, 2 hours in the Monday session, in the Tuesday session, and then I think it is enough for us to have discussion in this 1 hour of our class today. Okay, so please search for a good topic for your presentation and also for your paper writing. It can be related to your, your final project if you already have a topic from your advisor, or you can, it doesn't need to be related to the who already have, it is advisable for the doctorate or the current development of the topic, for example. And for those who are going to look for more interesting topic, please make some kind of with your topic. Needs to be it doesn't need to be highly sophisticated things. Okay, so it can be related to the physical, it can be related to the daily application of physics in our daily life, or perhaps related to the physics of sport or physics of our hobbies, etc., and so on. So please search for the topics that you can describe it easily, you can describe it without difficulties, and you are enjoying when you are talking about it, or you are enjoying when you are writing about it. Okay, so those are the assignment for this week, is to start to look for the topic that you want to talk about on the scientific communication presentation and scientific communication paper writing. Okay, so that's all for today's lecture. Thank you all for attending the class. We'll see you again on Tuesday morning for discussing about the plagiarism issues. Okay. Okay, thank you all for attending the class. See you all on Tuesday.
Thank you, sir.